Welcome to the bonus episode with Tia Joseph. Is that your full name?
No, it's not. My full name is Tia Celine. That's a full first name, like as if I was Anna Maria or something like that. And then my last name is actually Joseph Anderson. It's hyphenated. My mom's last name is Joseph. My dad's Anderson. They didn't agree on anything. So my dad also wanted me named Celine, which is my mom's first name. My mother thought that was weird. So I have four names because I have two parents and they never agreed on anything.
Thanks in advance. I love it, Tia. I've never asked anybody that, but all of a sudden I realized, oh, I didn't ask you about how to pronounce your name that I'll probably mess up when I start because that's always my biggest fear. So I guess I nailed it. I got Tia Joseph right.
You got it.
And then
Very
somehow
simple.
I knew it wasn't going to be a full name. My dad also wanted a different name, and my mom was just like, I'm the mom. So no.
I grew this human in my body, so I get to choose.
That's exactly. My mom died, and then I found out I was pregnant. I mean, that was her trump card. But she's like, your middle name could be your mother's middle name. So I've got the Katie Lorraine Eads.
And are you Katie or are you like
Just
Kathleen?
Katie.
Love that.
Grandma was Catherine. So technically, I
Mhm.
guess legal, like however you pass those down. My mom was just like, nobody likes to sign a full name because my mom was a Teresa and always had to sign Terry. So
Uh, yeah,
so
I
sorry, go ahead.
no, I wasn't gonna say anything,
You were.
actually. I was gonna fill space.
That's what you do. You do fill my space. You have a defined throat, and I do not. I'm in the 28% of population.
Mm,
So when you're around 28% of us, we feel pressure to spill our secrets. So the less you talk, the better for us. But you do have this really great voice. So you should never apologize for that. On International Women's Day, which synchronistically happens to be today, your husband told you, Bloomberg Television told me. So I'm
and
glad
it's
that men are
not
keeping us informed.
right. I was like, thank you for mansplaining International Women's Day to me because I wasn't paying attention. But like you said, you're it's International Women's Day every day for you. This is what you do.
Yeah, it is. And I also love the synchronicity of me just randomly reaching out to you, you saying yes faster than a New York minute. That was amazing. And 5'1", I'm a 5'1" profile in human design. You're a 6'2". 5'1", 6'2s can change the world together. So here we are. International
Changing
Women's
it.
Day, changing the world together, one podcast at a time.
I love it.
Mm.
What are we doing? What are we changing it into? I don't even know yet.
Well, as we were talking off stage, I think what I'm personally trying to change it into is people trusting themselves. We are so
Mm,
siloed. We see a separate doctor for our eyes than we do our teeth, than we do our bodies. We go to these individual pieces, like we're some type of puzzle that needs to be put back together. And trusting yourself again. You're just such a great example of that. And when we lose our way as women because we read the books and we listen to the people and we get the feedback and we feel like we need to do something with it
hmm
um, because we're humble.
Spread into it. That's what I tell women all the time. I'm like, listen, you don't need to worry about bragging. Brag away because no matter how much you try, it's still going to be humble. It is. It's bred into us. So it's one of those things where you have to, oh, excuse me, you have to realize that who you are, will actually come through, even if you're trying to be someone else that you're not.
Mm.
Um, and I think that's the part of when I come back to like, who I am and I'm reminded of my own power. That's the piece that really makes me feel better is that I'm like, I was always this person. It's not like I'm just remembering it and I happen to be, you know, a, a, a change maker, someone who's, you know, reinventing the world. Like just because I remembered it today, it's like yesterday when I felt like I was failing at everything, I was still that person and I was still doing great things.
Mm. Yeah, when reputation for women always comes to
Mm,
mind.
yeah.
Um, and I have a male client who I'm now going to quote all the time. He had someone try to give him more work without more money. And he said, and the guy goes, I know you have a reputation for not working hard. And he just looked at him and said, I have a reputation for not getting fucked. And I think, what I really love to help women do is to take whatever that thing is that you're afraid of. If you're like, people have told me I've been quiet my whole life. I'm like, yeah, people told me that I was like a little kid, but when I was a little kid, they told me I was so grown up. So make up your fucking mind. And
Yeah.
also, I'm gonna, talk in puns and wear pink and act like a child sometimes. And it's playful
Yes.
and it's fun. Um, you've been authentic your whole life. You were born wise, as I tell you all the time in human design. And I have all your solutions. What a great team we make. That's why we're here to change the world. And in
Yes.
our main episode, you're going to hear Tia talk about how she's changing the world with AI. Um,
Hey.
and I'm excited for people to make sure you tune into both of these episodes. But in the meantime, Tia's really been just inspirational in how you navigate corporate, how
Mm.
you squeeze everything out of corporate so that both of you win.
Yeah, I think one of the things that has always, well, frankly, this is I have been motivated by money. I'm not under any guise that I'm exchanging a priceless resource, my time, for money. And I want to maximize that every single time. I want to do it better tomorrow. I want to get more return on my investment next year. And so that's one of the things that has motivated me to squeeze as much as I can out of corporate. But what's been really interesting is that even having that mindset that, I once upon a time wouldn't be ashamed to admit, um, it actually led me to some of the other things that I'm very proud to talk about, like my ability to build team cohesion, my ability to champion equality and diversity, my ability to um, be a leader in every room that I'm in. All of those things weren't my initial goal. I just was. My goal was just to get more out of doing what I do. It's because I know I can't get this time back. And I don't know, the way I see corporates that I mean capitalism that is built under this idea that like money is a limitless resource. So keep paying me,
That's my
keep
favorite part
putting
of it.
money.
Keep printing
Yeah,
it. I would like some of it.
exactly. I want more. I always want more.
That is a gift that you have in your chart, and half of it's unconscious. It's actually the one I
Mm,
have consciously. And it's what I'm here to communicate, which is how to be good with resources. And that connects to your voice, which is management.
mm,
And in the BG5, which I'm a student in, which is the human design business version, without this strength, which is all this energy is a strength, a team cannot survive. You really are built for management. So when you talk about remembering who you were born
mhm.
this way. You also have this beautiful, I provide direction the minute I walk in the room.
Yeah.
And you're the keeper of the keys in that sense. You cannot have, this one is actually more important than management. It's capacity building and direction. And without you, we don't have capacity and we are a little bit confused on direction.
Oh,
Um,
that is 100% my philosophy in management. When there's the concept of a leader. I think I've always been a leader without a title, with a title, doesn't matter. But a manager is that person who identifies the capacity that the team has, where the unique talents are, and how to redistribute it so that everyone is able to put forth as much as they can or as much as is beneficial to the team, but it all comes together as like, 1 + 1 = 7. And the direction piece is where that multiplier comes from, is actually having a vision around where we're going with this and having the decisiveness and the enthusiasm to just go. My most loathed teammate is the person who wants to find every problem with every decision and pick it apart and tell us why it's not going to work. I'm like, let's just try it. Why don't we just do it? I don't know why you think you can predict the future. Just let's just like that's literally the person that frustrates me the most. I don't know what their human design is, but that person,
So
um,
their human design is
yeah,
probably their energies like mine are
mm,
for consulting, which is what we do.
okay,
We pick shit apart. And
okay,
when I learned, so I have zero. skills that track for large organizations. I've also never tried to work in a large organization, so I know
Good.
thyself is
Glad you
so
know your stuff.
important. It does say I'd make a fabulous consultant or coach for those organizations or leading global teams that like essentially lead themselves, because I'm the person that you come to for the judgments, for the right questions. That's why you come to me as a coach. I'm a strategic partner. I'm here to disrupt. And I would make probably a great individual contributor, or maybe dotted line, come to me because I'm inspirational. But
Mhm,
the energy I have is I'm not here for maintenance mode. I'm
mhm,
the person that comes in, swoops in, provides solutions, and swoops out. And
mhm,
if I haven't done my full job, like people come in for maintenance, right?
yeah.
But I don't coach people for lifetimes. You know, this is transformational, and you come back and you get a tune up, and it's transformational. And if you're coming back because you've just forgotten who you are. You probably
Mhm.
don't need weeks and weeks of coaching with me again, which has been my experience when they swoop back in. I'm like, you're
Yeah.
emotional. Think about it. Come back and see me. Do you want to be in a podcast? I get it. You want my energy. Cool. Now
Yes.
I probably should just charge a fee for that. It's like a tune up with Katie.
100%. 100%. Your time not free.
Mm. You know what's interesting? So you have so many. So you also have the reliability that you bring to a team. And so I'm seeing this play out in real time. I'm planning a retreat in Portugal with two other women. One is a 6'2". She's a projector. We know we need that energy to guide the generators. And the other one is a generator. But we both, all three have reliability. We're like, "Ooh, good, we got reliability." What we don't have, though, we started laughing because that's the piece we're missing. We're missing vision. And what's funny is she's like, I think we're pretty good at vision. I'm like, vision is really about just like what needs to happen to go next forward. Like we all have great visions, right? And the more that people felt comfortable, like if we just said, listen, you don't have it and it's totally cool. Here's what we mean when
Yeah.
we say vision. It doesn't mean we don't have the visioning.
Mhm.
And so we have this reliability, but what we're also missing is commitment. And without, that's the keeper of the keys. And we haven't
Yeah.
committed to purchasing the plane tickets. The only reason that this is up in the air is because no one has made a commitment to pull the plug. Like, and so every day
Yeah.
the price goes up. And then every day you think maybe we should talk about it more. We're the annoying people, like you had said, because had we said, let's just try shit, worst case scenario, we end up in Portugal by ourselves. Like, let's just try shit.
Exactly. Exactly. Just book the tickets. Please, let's not talk about this anymore. I, and what really is there to talk about those? So tell me, as a consultant, and you're the person someone comes to pick apart a problem or pick apart a decision or a scenario, like what is that process? What is happening that I'm missing?
Mm. So I always go back to Scarf. Here's what's happening for those people that work
Hmm.
there. Because what's happening for them is not what's happening for me when I'm there. I'm
Okay.
asking questions to stir shit up. I'm just curious. I have curiosity. I think what you see in corporate is um, detective work.
Yeah, it is.
From a Scarf model, there's a lack of certainty.
Mm.
There's a feeling of autonomy. Did I even contribute if I didn't poke things apart because that's my value prop? Fuck, that's my value prop. If I'm not asking a few questions, I haven't done anything. Um, is there a feeling of like it's not really fair to make like is this person an emotional decision maker who really needs to sleep on it? Who's feeling into the decision and this is part of how they think this is their process. It's funny that you asked this because I just coached somebody on how to coach someone through this week. And I say, like, you take it as a development opportunity by having them ask you, like, go climb in the ladder where you want to go next. And, like, here's one of those
Mm.
where we don't voice every question or concern. And we definitely never want to show up and say, I've got major concerns. Like, if you're in a big meeting and you have major concerns, you're having the wrong conversation,
Oh, you shouldn't have been in
right?
that meeting to
You're
begin
you're
with.
you're triggering somebody there, and now this boss is triggered. And so, like, first we put the oxygen mask on the person like you that's receiving it, that's annoyed,
Mhm,
and then we understand like where it's autonomy for her. It's
mhm,
100 and probably a little bit of fairness because she doesn't like to be blindsided. And so then
mm,
you have a development on cognitive agility. And That's why I like attitude breathing and belly breathing and allowing herself to bring these thoughts up in a private setting if she's still worried about it, but to always sleep on it to see if she's still worried in the morning. And to ask yourself at 95 years old, are you worried about this decision? And that
Right.
one is usually a no for most people. And I'm like, well, then what
Of
are
course.
you doing? You're playing with someone else's money. Go have fun.
Right.
Oftentimes, back to reputation. I
Mm-hmm.
think oftentimes people also hold back because they're worried of I didn't speak up,
Mm-hmm.
um, or do I need to speak up to be feel like I've contributed something?
I think that's so insightful to realize that there's that motivation around your reputation and your insecurity about how you've established it or whether or not you've established it by coming to the table within it, a criticism or a question or some sort of little detail. That's going to help me a lot because I really found myself, um, you know, the scientist in me. So I not only do I work in AI and tech, but my education was always aligned to science. I got a neuroscience degree as my undergrad. And as a scientist, you always want data. You always want like tangible evidence to start picking apart. So the hypothesis exercise that you do in the scientific method, that what if this would, what if gravity is this? That hypothesis, you shouldn't spend too much time on because it's like, no, you got to spend more time on designing the methods to like actually gather data, gathering the data itself, interpreting the data itself. Those, for me, is like where the bulk is. And then when you come to the conclusion, you go back to your hypothesis likely changed. The questions you didn't even know what you didn't know to ask. And and so that's what I get hung up on when I see people sort of need to sleep on something or asking, some of those nitty gritty questions about it. I'm just like, just do it. You'll get some evidence. You'll get some feedback. We can abandon it if it's a bad idea. Like, why is it such a big deal?
Yeah. Well, and you're a gut in the moment decision maker. The other piece, though, that back to the reputation, 68% of people do not have this management piece we talked about
Right.
um, filled in at all. It's the willpower, and so that we always feel like we have something to prove. There's
Mm,
another part too, is that science, the real scientists are artists.
I agree.
And artists do feel and so I would ask intuitive questions from that person. Well,
Mhm.
before we address those concerns you have, tell me about your intuition. Where's it calling you? What's it speaking to you? Because I would argue that you could just come up with any old hypothesis, sure, but you guys are very smart, thoughtful people.
Yeah.
And what is your intuition? Like, what direction is your intuition calling you? And I see a lot in Agile, particularly, where they talk about wait until the end to use your intuition, gather data and use intuition. I'm like, your intuition should be guiding the data gathering.
Exactly.
And the hypothesis piece is for me, that's also do you trust yourself?
Exactly.
And so trust yourself to come up with an intuitive hypothesis. Get
That's exactly what
excited
I'm
when you're
about.
wrong. Hope that your hypothesis is
Hope that
wrong.
you're exactly.
Otherwise, you're not doing science. And so if we're questioning, yeah, and that allows us to, I like to remind people that science has a way of reflecting popular opinion instead of challenging popular opinion.
Yes, exactly. We've stopped running experiments on gravity because we take it as a given, but it is a theory. It is literally a theory. Yes, we have lots of data supporting it, but you know what? There's someone's not asking the question we need to ask about it, about being able to defy it in whatever that is. And I haven't thought enough about it to give you an eloquent version right now, but just that thought exercise in and of itself tells you how important intuition is. And um, in my undergrad in neuroscience, we actually studied wisdom within the context of AI because in the yesteryear, the technology would find itself unable to make decisions and unable to beat a human at chess, for example, because it would spend all its time looking at every permutation and combination of a move. And what intuition gives you, or at least this is what we were talking about at that time at University of Toronto, was it gives you framing. It allows you to actually frame your problem and know what data is actually irrelevant to the question. So the human that's playing chess against a computer that's winning and beating this computer is not playing every move in their head. They have that intuition guiding them of like, this is a starting move, this is an opening, this is the next, this is the flow that this game is going. And I don't need to like look at what the rook is doing over on this side of the board because it's not in play right now in this moment, and allows you to frame the problem and just see like a lot fewer game pieces on the board with every move. And it doesn't mean that you're like going to open yourself up to all these horrible blind spots. That's the part that I think people get caught up with, and why they pick at problems is they think, oh, well, if we didn't look at that, if we didn't think about that, it might come and sneak up on us and catch us off guard. And it's like, it's very unlikely. I mean, the statistical chances of that one isolated off chance thing happening is so small that literally you're wasting time thinking about it. You're wasting your imagination worrying about it. I'm sorry, my voice is starting to like filter away. I've been battling a flu, but I
It's a
hope that
thanks
was
in
clear.
advance for not a sorry. Remember, no more sorries.
Yes, no more sorries. Thanks in
Yeah.
advance for still giving me some airtime with this voice.
It's my pleasure. I loved the CEO today of HubSpot that said, I'm done with data and diversity and proving
Yeah.
diversity. And as we get away from this over reliance, also, I just have a degree in history. So there's lies, and statistics. Uh, like, let me tell you about your data. Let me tell you about the American Heart Association and cholesterol and Ansel Keys. When we know that science isn't challenging science anymore and we start looking at it, when you described intuition that way in the coaching program I took, we talk about intuition doesn't make sense.
No.
And so it's not even about, you know, it's about allowing yourself to be fully present. I keep telling people that humans are AI. You guys are just missing out on your own ability to really magnetize that. And that goes back to what I love about human design is being able to bring people back to themselves as an energetic being. Like you are a triple split, which means that you have three different areas where you are closed circuits. You've got all this energy that's flowing, but it
Mm-hmm.
can't connect to the other energy and it can't connect to this energy, which can feel like three distinct voices. And how you assimilate information best is getting information and then going out and just hanging out in public and being inspired and allowing the information to just trickle in.
Mm-hmm.
And with business being so hard to trust people and building all of that, I look at we can trust that your energies, these are the consistent things about you. You
Right.
bring this management energy. You're very good with resources. You understand. I have a manifestor client with this energy, and she was like, I told them to promote me 6 months ago, and I'm just pissed off because they're now doing it. And I told them this and that. And I'm like, so you're mad that you got a promotion? She's like, well, it sounds petty when you say it like that. But like, what I love about you owning this energy is that you don't take things personally here. You understand corporate's going to corporate. You understand this is what we're here for. If you don't have this energy, you're not built that way.
Yeah.
And it's okay to know that like I'm not built that way. I'm half built
That
that way, which is why I'm always trying to prove it, which is why I take it personally, which is why I'm worried about my reputation. But I also
I'm
know
married to
myself.
someone who's just like that. So
Yeah, well,
he's
I know myself very well. So if you look at my resume, it's every 3 years.
mm-hmm.
And a therapist would say, well, we can break that cycle. And for me, I'm looking at, well, 3 years is where I master it and move out. If I
Yeah.
truly am a consultant, I'm only there for a year. And I have one job that I was there, it was my last one. It was when I was fully stepping into, I'd signed up, I built my business. I
Mm-hmm.
filed my LLC. I'd signed up for coaching. I'm like, it's time to go in. Like, I knew that was the arena.
Hmm.
But I also had to play in the leadership circuit. I had to play in management. So I can do it. I also know where my limitations are, and that's where you come in. I don't have capacity building.
Mm.
You bring me in for accounting, administration, and reliability, but you don't bring me in for capacity. I get you to where I can get you, and then I'm out. Like I took an
Yeah.
organization that was making 40K and like we can triple that, but like I know what my ceiling is alone.
Hmm. It's so interesting because I like you're you're my coach, and I would say that coaches are capacity builders. So
I
what
do. I build people and I build their capacity. That's fair, but we're
mm,
talking strictly about business. So
business
in
has,
if you and this is why I don't consult a coach because I administration and accounting, like I crush that. So if you're a small business owner, you want me to come in, I'm really going to help you there.
yeah.
It's not but my jam is reliability. Like you got to rely on yourself. And yeah, all the places where I don't have, I'm here to be wise about them. I
Mhm.
can guide you, I can support you, but I can't be you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a Bill Belichick, right? That's if you're a football fan, like that guy's not gonna, he's heavy as shit. He's not running a football field and doing anything. He's out of shape.
But he's
Uh,
brilliant, but he's
Maybe, I
brilliant.
don't know. He had Tom Brady. Phil Jackson, though, he did play basketball and he did coach in multiple places and had some rings there. So I always like to compare myself to Phil versus Bill. But
I would say Phil's better comparison anyway, if you're
thank you.
going to pick a coach.
And he understood how to get the best out of a Rodman and a Jordan, and he
Yes.
understood how to get them to play together, which is why I like to use him as an example.
Hmm.
You, Tia, are Tom Brady. And when
Yeah.
someone hired, I'm not kidding, I have your chart. Like from a team perspective, you're going to show up and you're going to provide the capacity to win Super Bowls every single time. And if you are Google did that cloud research program where they looked at how do you recreate high performing teams and
Oh
they
yeah.
could not replicate it.
Hmm.
This is my argument for how you would be able to replicate it is energies talk. And so if you took one person, it can be the junior employee that has some of these energies you have, but somebody
Totally.
on the team has to
Somebody.
have the capacity building strength.
Yeah. You got to get that balance. Have you seen also, so one of the things that's really interesting to me is we were talking about this, I think, in a previous conversation about how the individual parts themselves, you can't isolate them and evaluate them. We go to see an eye doctor
Yeah.
versus, a throat doctor. Um, when I think about human design, is there also this sort of understanding of like how interconnected everyone else is in their design to one another? And like how much of that is at play when you're also kind of digging into your own design or talking to a coach about your design?
Yeah, you can also look at plant design and there's a place like you and I don't know if you like plants or not, but someone I live with has yeah, he has the same energy and he also is one with the plants. Um and animals also have these insects. We're talking about understanding that we are all interconnected. That's why I laugh about, you maybe the earth is mutating us. We're not mutating the earth as much as we tend to like to think because we're so prideful, right? We have all the answers now. There was no civilization before us. We're like the Donald Trump of our time. No civilization before us was ever as advanced. We don't know how we built these pyramids. No civilization before us was as advanced as us, right? Like we
Yeah.
forget of these ancient and so human design is an ancient system. We're using ancient knowledge.
Hmm.
And because I have a degree in history, I also people forget that the Catholic Church had astrologers. There's a reason why February all the emotional gates are activated and we happen to have St. Valentine's there. That's not
Of
an
course.
accident. Beware in the Ides of March. Yeah, there's a lot of different energies flowing through March. And right now, it's a fun one. Like some people are struggling through those energies. You just have to learn. February was probably tough for you. You're an open solar plexus. And
Yeah.
I try to remove that mystery for you so that we can stop writing human stories and
Right.
recognize the story, like the space rock that we're spinning on story.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but Heart Math Institute, for teams, I think of coherence. If all of our hearts are beating in rhythm, we would be at a music concert. we would be
Yeah.
in sync. And what you're trying to do is to make music together. Music is art. And if one person's heart isn't in the same sync, we miss the beats. And then we write these stories and we have to use neuroscience to understand the brain and scarf and seeds and all the things. Versus what I would argue is just like, what is the energy here? Do we all get into the same coherence? Because we do all have the same goal. And some of the things that we fight over in companies are just so laughable.
Oh, yeah, for
Like this
sure.
person went behind my back. And, um, I've been pulled into an office before with someone in tears and yelling. And that's why I use scarf model, because that's the toddler model. It's your limbic system. And we're all toddlers. If you've ever had somebody drink out of your coffee cup in the office, you know that you're just a toddler that's ready to throw a tantrum over your cup. Like, how ridiculous is that? But we would
In
do it.
fact, I was having a rough day yesterday, spoke to my friend who happens to be the mother of a toddler, and her advice around, you know, sort of she said it's kind of the next phase of gentle parenting. So it's this collaborative model that so her toddler wants to jump from a high place and it's going to hurt her. And she's like, what you want to do is you want to avoid no in so many ways and actually um, problem solve with your toddler around how they can achieve what they want, but still do it within some of the other consequences or realities that they may not be aware of. So, sweetie, you're going to hurt yourself if you jump from there, but you want to jump. So why don't you try to jump into mommy's arms? Or why don't you try to jump on this? Let me put pillows all on the ground so you can jump onto the pillows and it's safer. That kind of idea, like ideation and brainstorming, she was explaining this to me and I was like, oh, that's what I've got to do with my team. She's like, honestly, Tia, managing people is just all about like managing a toddler. And it was remarkable. My mind just opened up once I started to realize how many things that I've, learned just seeing different parents. I'm not a parent, but I'm a very proud auntie. Tia also means aunt in Spanish. So I always say I was born to be an aunt. And so I get this opportunity to see child rearing like at a bird's eye view. I'm not in there emotional and like, pulling my hair out when the kid's not listening to me. I get to watch it and learn. And I realize that the things I've learned all apply to being effective at what I do, working with people in corporate, or I think working with people in general, but mostly in corporate because there's a lot of it's like the terrible twos, I think. Corporate like
Hmm.
has honed that era
So
of
I
like,
like to offer it's like juniors in high school because I taught
yeah,
then
okay,
and because corporate people might feel a little bit better about being juniors in high school than
then
toddlers.
toddlers. That's fair.
Um, and
Yeah.
that is
This
my
is what you
background.
also have to tell juniors in high schools too, when you realize that you're doing what you were doing when they were toddlers,
Oh,
but
I
you have to
still,
tell them.
yeah. So but what you do is you put your own oxygen mask on first. When I taught high school, I
Exactly.
had the serenity prayer on my wall and I would walk up and put a hand on it very dramatically and everybody just knew. I didn't have to say anything. Everybody just
Mm,
knew that like I was like anything because I would apologize to them. I'm like, listen, I just lost my cool because I was out of serenities. And that part of that leading a team also is just being very transparent, authentic, and honest about where your energy is and where you're at. So you're leading by example.
mhm,
And I always told them, I'm not getting in your backpack and going to college with you. So I'm going to equip you with what you need to succeed without me.
mhm.
And those are, you can teach when you teach in the South Side of Chicago, you either have students that respect you and want to learn, or they run your class. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And we didn't have fights in my class because I think respecting your people is really important. They
Mm,
teach you everything you need to know about teaching them. And so when I look at parenting, like that kid is teaching you. I always hear parents say, my toddler doesn't have emotional regulation skills yet. No, your
you
toddler
don't.
knows your toddler is the only one that has emotional regulation skills, right? It throws a tantrum, it goes, it resets its nervous system and it's moved on about its
Mhm.
day. It can draw blood from his brother and it'll cuddle on the couch. But you and your colleague have a fight over a font and now you're not talking for a week. So you tell me who is
And
the
you're telling
one.
everybody else who will listen about it too.
Exactly. Like you tell me who can't emotionally regulate. Uh,
100%.
Um,
That again, that goes back to intuition. We talk about how like younger kids, they're so much more in tune, right? because
Because
they haven't been
we
social, it
beat it
hasn't been
out of them,
socialized
right?
out.
We told
Yeah.
them use your words. Like where 70% of people in human design are designed to say mm-hmm or mm-mm, and you
Feel
lose
it in your
touch,
gut. And that's my
right?
thing now.
Yeah, you lose touch with that. And there's three questions that every generator, 70% of humans can ask themselves to always get an honest answer. Do I want this? Do I need this? Is it correct for me right now?
Mm.
And the last one is where the gut always speaks, just like you did. Every time I say that, I always get a gut say, hmm. I'm like, see, I told you so. You can agree with the first two or disagree with the first two, but that last
Easily
one will,
right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
tell you the truth.
Well, it's all about being present, right? That's what that brings out in me, at least when you said it, is I thought, oh, like, where am I right now? And then it's like immediately my brain went into like body scan mode, just sort of like just heightened awareness, and not like in that weird like hypervigilant sort of way, but more of that like ease of just being here.
Mhm.
And like, I'm not worried about the next minute. I'm not worrying about the last minute. I'm here.
The body is a decision maker. When I think of AI, which is your main episode,
Mhm.
I think of the brain.
You got to. That's literally
And
what it's based off of.
what is, to me, what's exciting is the thought of training humans to look at AI and intuitively know which part's right, which part's wrong, to
Mhm.
intuitively know which one is a real source. Um, and
That's the scary thing we're actually headed into in this world of AI is, you know, my husband and I always kind of in our little conspiracy theory moments talk about how can we trust anything anymore? There's so much capability to pick up the phone and hear your mother's voice and it's not her, or watch a video of something happening across the world that didn't even happen.
we have an entire human race that has been disconnected from their own body intelligence by
Yeah,
design from the system for a very long time.
very long time. Yeah.
Um, I see a future where you use your own medical intuition. You go to experts, but you listen to yourself.
Hmm.
Um, and right now we have this war on social media of you're an armchair scientist, you're an
Yeah.
armchair this.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just allowing my intuition to guide me and make decisions for me.
Hmm.
It's a skill that, yeah, it's funny. I see these AI photos and you can tell for me,
You
it
can
doesn't land.
no.
There's no feelings that are emoted from me
It
when I,
actually upsets my like I get physically uncomfortable. I I can't handle a lot of it. Even the ones of myself. It's like I don't know what it is about it, but it really like it literally might I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it because I had generated one earlier with a bunch of hands, and how AI is like really bad at hands. Oh, just this they call it the uncanny valley. It's like this thing that happens around the way that we perceive things, the likeness to something so real but not being real. It actually starts to upset our like center and our core.
that
Yeah,
is why intuition is so powerful.
right.
When I was a little girl, I had a babysitter from like age 0 to 2. And
Hmm.
when I would meet her as an adult, I never ever liked her. I didn't know why. I just had that same feeling you're talking about that elicits that never liked her. And when I asked my dad finally, I was 40 and I was like, "Hey, why did we stop going to her?" Like, and he's like, "I don't." He said she made some comments to me I didn't like. And I kind
Mm, jump on
that's what
that.
it was. I would never look at her in the eye. And he's like, so he's after that, we just didn't go. I'm like, why do we keep inviting her to family stuff? He goes, I don't know. And I was like, well, that's fucking stupid. I didn't ever
Yeah.
want her to be in my energy again.
Yeah.
And I don't have really memories of being 1 or 2. I just never liked her as an adult.
Mhm.
Her aura, like something about her, and it's because she's not
Mhm.
off. Whatever she says and whatever she does are different people, and that's what you're talking about with AI. And so we're wired to know that. And
Yeah.
then we let logic override it, which is why I owned a gym with a business partner who's now in prison for murder. And that's why I knew that he sucked in college. Like I knew he was a creep then. And I didn't think he was a murdering creep, but you know, I went into business with him still knowing he was a creep.
Yeah.
And I'm a host a podcast with Marissa, and she worked for Elizabeth and Suni at Theranos, and she'll talk openly about like she quit before she was even on Forbes because she's like, I don't think this thing works.
Yeah.
But nobody speaks up and no one says that. So it's interesting to me that you're finding that science that we're still lighting up there. Because, you know, the fear is that people don't light up like that. The fear is that people start to love that and think it's human and that they
No,
fall for that.
no, we really can't forget our human design. No, really, we really can't forget that's a piece of us, and it goes back to even before we were intellectualized creatures, right? When you think about the intuition that animals have, and that birds, and like all of our like genealogical sort of cousins on the planet, plants even, and the intuition plants have,
Yeah.
they start to seed aggressively when they realize they're dying, like, that's artificial intelligence, that's intuition, that's knowing, something deep down, and if something's off, something's wrong, and we have it. There's this book that I read in in my undergrad as we were learning artificial intelligence, and it said, "How could smart people be so stupid?" is the name of the book. I can't remember the author, but it's a remarkable book talking about exactly how what we consider human intelligence being actually stupidity. And it's actually the reason why we do a lot of stupid things. It's the reason why prejudice and bias exist. Literally, our whole intelligence system is based on pattern recognition. That's what intelligence is. That's also what racism is. Like, um, so it's very interesting and then the equation of how we built these systems, built our society, built these technologies based on all of those heuristics, but not on intuition, not on wisdom, because we barely understand it ourselves. um and yeah, it's what I really, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that um it is so fundamentally important that we don't forget that this is a piece of us, and it's a piece of our just reality of being on the spinning rock. We really can't escape it. And that makes me not as afraid of AI, because I realize that like even a baby can pick up that like something's off with those hands. A baby would see those hands and be like, my hand, no, those aren't hands. Why does it look like that? And dogs pick it up, and birds, and you
Yeah.
see it all around you when
I
nature just
personally
tells you
have,
something's off.
yeah, I have that reaction to people that have started plasticize their faces as
Yeah.
well. So,
Yeah.
uh, and I've always said, listen, I don't know if I'll ever be above like putting some Botox in my face. I just know it's a toxin. And I also know that when we freeze that muscle that usually would move when we laugh, there's a part
Yeah.
of our brain that we no longer wire to when we smile. That was all
Yeah.
see, you talk about like knowing, like needing to know things. Like this is the armchair scientist. Like I don't know where I read that. I read it one time and it was like enough for me to like pull out as a
And
piece.
you also have an intuition of like kind of how your body works.
There is that intuition. It's interesting you mentioned like racism and pattern recognition because I do have pattern recognition and intuition, which makes sense why in the Harvard bias test I'm biased towards white people because those are the men that assault us and those were the women that were mean to me. Like I thought like my bias made sense.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, all evidence points to that for
Right?
sure.
Like I went to like the kids at the school that were nicer to me were kids of color. Like we all went to school together. So
Exactly. You grew up in a very,
like
yeah, externally, you weren't looking at your skin all day. You were looking at the
other people's, but also my
people.
bias, like, and so the fear, I guess, I always look at too, of like, I guess my bias was not a fear of the unknown, like what I wasn't around. My bias was a fear of what I
What
was
the
around,
devil, you know what those people are capable of.
which it did show up for me when I taught my last year in an all white school. It was, I think, a rich part that I had the least amount of bias with, but Tia,
Mm.
I could talk to you all day long. We'll probably have to record our full episode another day, but the
Okay.
bonus episode for International Women's Day was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your light and energy. We are going to change the world together. Let me know how
We're,
I can
we're
consult.
doing it.
Let me know
We're
I can
doing it.
consult for AI.
Yes, definitely.
Where can people connect with you?
I'm on LinkedIn. If you go www.linkedin.com/in/ just type out Tia Joseph, all one word, T.I.A. Joseph. That's the best place to find me.
All right. And I would open up with thanks in advance. I heard you on the Outstanding Women Leaders podcast that I follow on Apple or Podbean or YouTube, Outstanding Women Leaders.